Bonjour and welcome to this latest video of a classic car from Bradley James Classics. I apologise for any wind noise, a little bit blowy here in Hampshire today. Now we have just taken in as a part exchange a Citroen DS from 1969. Now the different model types between DS's and IDs and Supers and Specials, 19s, 20s, 21s, 23s, Palaces, there's a huge variation in the Citroen range, but I can tell you technically this car is a Citroen, so it's an ID20, and they only did that for the model year 1969. So it's actually the same as an ID19, a more powerful engine, so more power. This one has a 1985cc engine and a 4-speed manual gearbox. It doesn't have power steering, but of course it does have that famous hydro pneumatic suspension, which works perfectly well, and then when you start it up goes the car. Now the best way I can describe this car is a car that you can use and enjoy now. However, having had it in as a part exchange, and quite often with our part exchanges we do take the previous owner's word for it, that when they've had their cars checked over and looked at, they form their opinions and they've described them to us. Now of course we have our own workshop here, and even though we must agree from body panels and certainly the way it drives and runs, steering, suspension, brakes, all very lovely. Paintwork, clearly the car has been painted in what I'd imagine quite recent times, because it does present very well. The Webasto style electric sunroof has been retrimmed. It looks like someone's done a fairly poor job of trying to fit their own vinyl roof by sticking on vinyl, and it's kind of okay, but it could be done so much better. The car has been plastered underneath with something that I can only describe as sort of a rubberized sealer, and that's pretty effective because it remains predominantly solid underneath, with just sort of one area on the offside rear floor where it's a bit scabby and probably benefit from a welded in plate at some stage. However, the door alignment, which we were told requires shimming, on closer inspection the actual A, B and the rear seat post all would need proper alignment, and I think welding to make sure that those big heavy doors are in fact correctly lined up and fitted. So there's definitely a bit of rolling restoration about it there. However, I can't deny, if you turn the key it starts first time. The engine revs up very well, it gets up to running temperature. Having taken it on a short 10-minute journey, it was a great pleasure to drive. The car does have a new exhaust system with a receipt that covers it. It's only entered the UK in, I believe it was January 2022, so it's only been in the country this year. And all the paperwork, including details required to register the car, does come with the car. And the car has of course come from France, and of course it's a left-hand drive. So if you're looking for a comparatively inexpensive Citroen DS that you can actually jump in and enjoy and drive now and then improve as you go along, or you can just drive it as it is, albeit I've got to tell you, certainly some remedial work is going to be required on the offside door pillars to get these doors rather large gaps sorted out. That's all doable, and I've got to say the rather scrumptious leather tan interior is really nice. The interior is rather lush and undoubtedly quite a pricey optional extra, I'd imagine. The electric sunroof, I'm told, isn't wired up, but if you do put the right size sort of squared Allen key and twist, it does in fact open and shut. So you could have this with, I'd imagine, quite a rare edition of a Webasto style sunroof. Let's have a little look inside the car, and then we'll look around the car together slowly. So let's have a look in the back first. When I told you about those scrumptious leather seats, albeit they show their age, but I think you'll find when you sit in them, it's like being in a favourite chair. Look at the engineering that goes into those headrests and just the size of the seats. In fact, all the carpets are very good order, as are these door cards, and you can see that leather theme in tan, and the lighter tan at the top is working very well. You get a large pull down centre armrest, which is like so, and that's the same over there. Opening up this door, it's driver's door. So first off, notice that classic design of a frameless door. In fact, when it comes to design, we could speak for probably hours. This car did bring such a futuristic design in the production run it had from the mid-50s to the mid-1970s, and even though there were various iterations of the car, and the car did get more powerful and it did get more kit, and by the time it ended up in the 70s, you had a DS723, which had a fuel injected engine with a much larger engine and was really quite a force to be reckoned with. It had a rallying career and it did rather well through the years. So this car, albeit an ID20, it is from 1969, and it sort of features the dashboard design that you would have seen of the car from the sort of mid 60s onwards. So there's that classic single spoke steering wheel, and the steering wheel's actually been clad with a sort of a leather steering cover. There's those indicator stalks, and the lights go on by twisting them here. Great design. Steering, this is the ignition key, and then round the corner here we have a starter button. The previous owner has kindly put a few notes on what's what and how you start it, but I can assure you it's not too tricky to start. This is the gear stick here, and all you really do with this car's got a little bit of choke because they're going from cold. We turn the ignition on, unk on the dashboard lights, and just a flick of the switch, she's running, and up goes that suspension a bit more. But I'm going to turn it off now just so you can hear me talk to you about the car. But it does run very nicely, and it's all very solid actually under the engine bay, which is pretty huge. And to open that, you've got a lever here and you've got a lever the other side. You pull those together, up come that huge bonnet. It would take a long time to run through all of the character designs of the Citroen DS, or as this model is the ID20 Super. As you can see, we have a D Super badge on the back. It has a tow bar, and you can probably see the bit of the new exhaust coming out the back. They always had a very large boot. Oh, it is open. See how deep that is. And actually, you open up here, you've got some wooden planks, and then under there you've even got another void for even more volume. Quirky things. That's just a 19mm bolt, same bolt used to undo the wheel, and you undo that bolt and this whole rear wing comes in this direction, and then it gives you easy access to change your spare wheel. Famously, they developed a system where you just had the single nut to hold the wheel on, so for things like motorsport and rallying, it's very quick to change the tyres and wheels on a car like this. In fact, Citroen was owned by Michelin, and Michelin developed this car around what were new at the time, radial tyres. Another part of the reason why this car did actually set a new standard in both suspension, aerodynamics, braking, handling. It really was a car that was full of innovation, and in fact to this day this car still makes people stop and look. I appreciate this particular one, they would stop and look a little bit longer if it had one or two cosmetic details carried out. However, at the price point this car is at, it gives you an opportunity to actually get into one. A restored one of these cars are regularly fetching over £50,000, and the high-end models between 50 and 100, and if it were the convertible, then those cars are selling for over 100. So actually, to be able to buy one of these, enjoy it, use it, improve it, it's quite a good opportunity to have a nice running car. In the later 60s, this Series 3 front end was added. Now, these lights were added by a new designer, and you can see down here Citroen, and then some models, depending on the specification of where they were in the model range, famously these headlamps, the inner one was a driving light. As you turn left, the lights went left, and if you turn right, the lights went right, and it helped you see round corners. Of course, what a great idea. And these huge big rubber bumpers, on some models that was an optional extra. A absolutely classic design, and the use of lightweight materials and low centre of gravity. For example, under here has fiberglass. Large bonnet, also plastic, not metal. So despite the physical size and appearance of this car, it was so well designed, so aerodynamic. It really was a force to be reckoned with back when Citroen were really the king of the quirk. So nothing quite like the DS, and they still have that incredible road presence today. I actually think the car looks rather nice and smart in white, and those chunky old leather seats look brilliant. The fact that the car does require a little bit of work, I mean, there's a fairly shameful gap in this panel here, and obviously if this door wasn't almost touching its rear door there and it moved forward, and a similar thing here, we shouldn't see such a large panel gap. This is all about adjustment. So clearly my suggestion is that somebody would need to put this car into their trusted workshop and say, hey, can you help us out? I've got a few cosmetics. I think this side looks pretty firm and solid when it comes to these A post, B post, C post. This side, this is where we need a bit of work, because panel gaps, and actually right at the bottom of that A post we've got some movement, which is not going to help line up a door nicely. I'm sorry, this side is locked. But anyway, let's not totally focus on the negative. The overall is the fact that this car is in stock. It's available at a great price point for one of these. It does make it a very nice proposition to enjoy and improve. It does come with some French paperwork which demonstrates some of the work that's been carried out. It does have quite a lot of spend in more recent times, as clearly this car would have been recommissioned. And importantly, the car with its working hydro pneumatic suspension, it's up and down as it should be. And then when it actually parks up, I might be able to do this with a little lever and demonstrate, because how you actually adjust those suspension settings, you've got a lever down here, and if I get my hand on that lever and say, right, let's put it down here somewhere, that's me inviting the car to drop down, and there's a little bit of ticking noise, and there it goes within a fairly short amount of time. This car is going to go tick, tick, tick as that suspension starts to drop down. And from that very high up stance of a moment ago, can you see how low she's going at the back and even the front? And then I shall walk around and I'll start her up again, and then I'll show you the new position of the suspension, and that's a quick demonstration to demonstrate that this suspension is working. Look how low that goes at the back. And of course I have this sat inside the wear in our unit, and people come around and say, is that right? Is that car be that low? And even though it's as low as this now, trust me, it goes lower. and there's nothing really quite like it. Admittedly, I have put it on the rather lower suspension settings just to prove a point, but yeah, it really is very different. So from the information, I've made these few notes for you. I just need to check to see if I've missed any pertinent information. Yeah, 1985cc 4-cylinder front-wheel drive car, 4-speed manual gearbox. Engine seems to be absolutely fine, as does the gearbox. Brakes certainly are. You've got famously, it's got those inboard disc brakes, and having run my hands up and down those when I was had her on the ramp, there's very little wear. I'd go as far to say the front brakes certainly seem to have been recently replaced. And while we're talking about facts and figures, I think I'm right to say that it was actually the Citroen DS that was the first mass production car that was actually featuring disc brakes. Another factor of these cars is that actually they're wider at the front with the spacing of the front wheels compared to the rear. Now that really helps with front wheel drive cars dealing with any sort of understeer, because these really were a performance quick car to go up and down the motorway in, with like a magic carpet ride quality to the handling, and overall just a remarkable car to drive. If you haven't driven one, you would see what I mean. They really are remarkable sort of air suspension feel to them, which even in the most modern cars now, they don't feel as comfortable as driving something like this, in my humble opinion as a classic car guy. The rather low mileage is believed to be genuine from the previous owner. However, I once had a customer who believed in fairies, so I think we can't make any assurances that that super low kilometres on the odometer is correct, but it is a possibility. There are other aspects of the interior that make me think that perhaps the car, I mean, for example, despite these old leather seats being over 50 years old, they have actually stayed in pretty good shape for their age. The carpet is remarkably good condition, so I suspect that may have been changed at some stage. But when I look at the switch gear, the dashboard, there's no cracks, there's no damage there. There is a period radio, sadly it's not wired up. And I did promise you I'd start the engine up again and show you the suspension going on, didn't I? And that looks as if that could be an original radio just popped in that hole. There's a ventilation system here. This is the button for the sunroof, and here we have the switch gear of the dashboard, which is more typical of the 1960s DS. Now I'm going to put the suspension back to a normal setting, which is that one here, put the ignition on, which is there, make sure we're not in gear, and a little press, and I'm going to jump out the car and I'm going to show you. Oh, it's already starting to go up, and in fact in no time at all, in the time it took me to jump out of the car, there we are, suspension back up again. I've got a little bit of choke on at the moment because I'm starting her from cold, but I can assure you she starts first time every time ever since we've had the car, and she's ready to go. A lovely old thing to drive, and a car for you to improve on, enjoy, and, well, vive la France. I can't think of too much I've missed out. You're going to have to take my word when I tell you that there's a distinctive lack of rust on a lot of these panels, especially the plastic ones. But as you can see, this rear wing is very straight, albeit this door is terribly adjusted, i.e. not at all. But the door itself is pretty solid. If I get it really close here, I've got the tiniest of bumps there. The rest of the door looks pretty good, as does this front wing. Headlamp units, the chrome is pretty pitted and it's a little twisted here and there. It's not the greatest, but it's pretty decent. A little bit of grot on the underside of the front valance, which is very standard for these. This front wing looks to be very sharp, and the two near side doors also in really good condition, top and bottom. Roof has been sort of a pretty terrible job of a vinyl roof attempt, so I think it would probably look a lot better without it, but that's what we've got at the moment. This rear wing is in really nice straight condition. I think I mentioned to you that the car does have a new exhaust front to back. This rear boot is excellent. Look at the position of those indicators up there, aren't they wonderful? In fact, I've got to give you a quick demonstration of those. Really solid underneath the bonnet. I'll take some photographs actually, which are going to show you the bonnet. In fact, if I'm clever, I could put the indicator. I wonder if the hazard works, and I could get them all going, couldn't it? No, that's the wrong button for the hazards. Shouldn't have said that, because that's the hazard one just above it. Pretty sure that'll work. Oh, look at those. What a place for indicators. And look where they fit on the end of that gutter line there. Isn't that a wonderful detail? All the lights work, all the wipers work, all the electrics work, all that's been tested and it works out pretty well. I think I spoke too soon. This indicator appears to have packed up. I'm sure our workshop can sort that out. But she is being sold on very much an as-is basis. She is by no means a perfect show-winning example. You will not be winning any concourse shows with this particular Citroen. However, it is at the affordable end of the Citroen DS price range. A car that can be enjoyed as is, driven and improved. We do offer a full UK delivery service. We can offer a part exchange service. That's how we got this one. I must say, the absolutely gorgeous MGB that the gentleman had and traded me this car in, I was happy to do the deal because it facilitated the deal by taking the Citroen away. However, we got to say that this one wouldn't usually be the car that we would buy and offer our clients. We would rather buy one that was probably restored, but it would probably be costing somewhere between 2 and 4 times the amount, knowing Citroen DS prices as I do. Well, I hope this video has been useful. Please get in touch. We offer a full UK delivery service. We can take a part exchange, and we're here to be as helpful as we can with any inquiries. Thank you for watching my video, folks. That's Danny of Bradley James Classics, signing out. Au revoir.